Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to start a 3-part series on object-oriented programming in Python. In this part 1 of the video series, I will begin with what is object-oriented programming, where I will cover the key concepts and benefits of this programming technique. I will then move on to classes and objects. Then we will cover init method and the self parameter before covering instance variables and class variables. So let's get started. Object-oriented programming is a powerful paradigm that is used in most modern programming languages, including Python, C++, and Java. Object-oriented programming technique is extremely powerful and popular because it closely models the real-life concepts, making it easier to understand the code. It also helps organize the code into reusable and logical structures, making the code easier to maintain and debug. The main principles around which object-oriented programming revolves include objects, classes, encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, and polymorphism. We are going to cover all these concepts in this and the coming videos. So let's begin by understanding the basic building blocks of object-oriented programming, which are classes and objects. A class is defined as a collection of similar type of objects, whereas an object is any real-world entity, including a person or anything that has some properties and behaviors. A class is like a blueprint, whereas objects are instances of that blueprint. You can think of a class as a cookie cutter and objects as the cookies that you make with it. In Python, a class is created like this. First we mention the keyword class, followed by class name, and the first letter of class name should be in capital letters as shown. Then inside the class definition, we mention the block of statements. Here, normally we declare the variables and functions that belong to this class. Now, coming to the syntax of creating an object, we first mention the object name and then assign it the class name followed by a set of parentheses as shown. Let us define our first class and let's name it as dog. So class is the keyword and dog is the name of the class. Make sure to name your class with a capital letter. So camel case has to be used. Next, I am going to define the attributes inside the class. My first attribute is going to be name with value buddy, and second attribute is age with value 3. Now the class has been created. As you can see, there are no methods yet, only 2 attributes are present inside the class. My next step is to define an object of the class. So here I will type creating an object, and in the next line I am going to name my object as my dog equal to dog. So object name equal to class name followed by a pair of parentheses like this. In the next line I am going to access these members of the class using the object of the class. So accessing the members using the object of the class, and here I will type print name of my dog is followed by my dog dot name, and this dot operator is used to access any attribute or method of the class. So my dog is the object name followed by a dot operator followed by the attribute name of the class, and then same thing I have to repeat for age. So age of my dog is followed by my underscore dog dot age. Let's run this file. Make sure to choose the current file at the time of running your code. Press the run button and on the output screen you can see name of my dog is Buddy and age of my dog is 3. Now this code is working fine for a single object. But what if I have multiple objects? Well, in that case we need to use the init method. In Python, init is a special method that is also known as a constructor. It is used to initialize the properties associated with an object when the object is created. In Python, all class methods, including the init method, must have an extra first parameter in the method definition. This parameter is called self. The self parameter is a reference to the current instance or object of the class and is used to access variables that belong to the class. So everyone, I am going to make a change over here. I will replace these lines of code with my init method. So type the keyword def followed by 2 underscores and choose the init method. As you can see, init method has 2 underscores on both sides and it is already having this parameter self. which refers to the current instance of a class. Now I want to initialize name and age value inside this method. So I will have to put a comma and type name comma age, and inside this function I am going to type self.name equal to name. This means initialize the name attribute of my current object with the value passed for name at the time of object creation. And same goes for age. Initialize the age value for the current object with the value for age that is passed at the time of object creation. Alright, init method has been defined now, and let's create another method with keyword def. Let's type the name of the method as bark, and as soon as I press let parenthesis here, you will see that the first line of the function definition is auto completed with a self parameter. This self parameter is a must have for every function or class method. Now I am going to define this function with a print statement. So here I will type f string, and inside it I will type self.name is barking. So when I will call this method with one of the objects of the class, then the name of the dog for that object will replace this self.name over here, and we will get to see that, let's suppose the name is Buddy, so Buddy is barking. So this is how this function will work. Alright, so we have already created one object over here which is my dog, but this time we will have to initialize the values for name and age at the time of object creation. So my first value will be the name of the dog, let's say it is Buddy, and age is 3. Make sure to match the sequence of arguments with the sequence of parameters. So first parameter is name and second is age. That is why we have name and age in the same order. And same thing we will do for another object. Let's create another object as your dog equal to dog. Assign it the name of the class followed by the values for name and age. So name is, let's suppose, Jimmy, and age is 5. Alright, next we will have to access the members of the class, and after that I want to access the bark method also. So my dog dot bark, and same lines will be repeated for your dog as well. So here I copy those lines and replace the word my with your everywhere. Here also it will be your. So as you can see, I have made the changes over here, and these lines will be called for the first object my dog, and these lines will be called for the second object your dog. Let's run the code, and on the screen we get to see name of my dog is Buddy, age is 3, Buddy is barking, name of your dog is Jimmy, age is 5, and Jimmy is barking. So I hope you have understood the concept of classes, methods, attributes and objects. To make your foundation in object-oriented programming solid, I am giving you a small practice exercise where you have to create a class named rectangle with two properties, length and breadth. Then define an init method to initialize these attributes, and finally define a method calculate area that calculates the area of the rectangle using the formula length into breadth. Finally, create two rectangle objects R1 and R2 and calculate the area for both. You can take your own values of length and breadth. Alright everyone, let's discuss about instance variables and class variables. Whenever we define variables inside init method, these are known as instance variables, and a new copy is created for both these variables every time a new object for this class is created. So in this case we have already seen that when we created the first object my dog, a copy of name and age was created with values Buddy and 3 respectively, and similarly when we created your dog object, at that time also we created new copies for name and age with a different set of values. So in this case we have two instance variables, namely name and age. These are called as instance variables because they belong to instances of the class. Now when we define a variable outside any method, then that becomes a class variable. So let's suppose we have a variable called count equal to 0. Python is a dynamically typed language, so I don't need to mention the data type of this variable along with it. and Python interpreter is intelligent enough to know that the data type is integer because I have assigned it value 0. Alright, moving forward, how to access the class variables? Well, instance variables are accessed via the instances of the class or objects of the class. On the other hand, class variables are accessed via the name of the class itself instead of any object. They are shared by all the objects. No new copies are created if a new object is created for the class. So I'll delete this code. So I'll print here one line, number of dogs is equal to, and then I will access the class variable via the name of the class. So dog.count, and here we will choose the current file, and then we will run the code, and in the output we get to see number of dogs equal to 0 because we don't have any object at the moment for this class. Now I want this count to be incremented every time an instance of the class is created. I'll type here dog.count equal to dog.count plus 1, and this line will increment the class variable every time a new instance of the class is created. So here I am going to create one instance of the class. So my dog is the name of the new object. Let's suppose it has name equal to Buddy and age equal to 3. Let's run the file, and this time number of dogs is equal to 1. So as soon as this instance of the class is created and initialized, the count is incremented by 1. Let's create another object. Let's say your dog equal to dog, and here we assign it a name and age, and now if I run it, so number of dogs become equal to 2. So the main differences between instance variables and class variables are like this. First of all, an instance variable is defined inside the init method, whereas a class variable is defined outside any method of the class. Secondly, every object or instance has its own copy of instance variable, whereas a class variable is shared by all the objects of the class. And finally, instance variables of a class are accessed via the objects of the class, whereas class variables are accessed via the class names. That's all for the first part, guys. In this video, we covered the basics of object-oriented programming, classes, objects, the init method, self-parameter, and instance and class variables. See you in part 2, where we will learn about inheritance and polymorphism in Python. Thanks for watching. Please hit the like button and share and subscribe my channel Programming Horizons for more videos like this. I'll see you in my next video.